how pornography directly contributes to child and adult sex slavery and indentured servitude. The massive global pornography experiment, which began 20 years ago, has fueled a massive child and adult sex slavery industry worth $100 billion today. In one study of 400 million web searches, the top word search related to sex was found to be youth. The top word search on Pornhub is teen. According to just one investigation by Internet Watch Foundation, they confirmed 100 cases of human trafficking displaying child sex abuse on Pornhub. Pornhub makes millions of dollars in profit each year from illegal and abusive pornographic content. Teen and youth pornography always counts as sex trafficking by definition, by law, and by God. The reality is that 1 in 5 pornographic images are of children, and half are of teenagers under the age of 18. Pornography is a toxic form of mating behavior, which reawakens and renews the ancient primal neural pathways in our mammalian brain. The sole goal of mating behavior is to have sex with the widest range of novel mates in order to spread maximum genetic diversity for the purposes of procreating the planet. This is a subconscious and unconscious form of unhealthy sexual behavior. It is absolutely crucial to understand that regular semen release to pornography is a major escalating dopamine addiction, equal in its grip and ferocity as all other major dopamine addictions to morphine, cocaine, and alcohol. This is not my opinion or a subjective debatable point, but actually backed up by scientific studies of the effects of regular pornography engagement on the neurology of our brain. The science clearly shows that the dopamine levels and receptor sites for regular pornography users are depleted to the same chronically low levels as cocaine and morphine addicts, as well as alcoholics. 80% of men and 26% of women regularly engage in pornography at least once per week. Of course, for men, we know that this rate of engagement is much more frequent, most often daily, or even multiple times per day. Each time a man releases his semen to novel pornographic imagery, his dopamine levels and receptor sites are canceled out. This is scientifically referred to as the desensitization cycle. In order to chase the fleeting feeling of that first dopamine high and to receive the same intensity of the previous dopamine hit, the user is forced to escalate the graphic nature and imagery they are engaging in. It is highly common and ultimately inevitable for regular pornography users to surpass their own moral standards by engaging in pornographic imagery they never thought possible and certainly would never actually engage in real life with real people. This is exactly how pornography directly contributes to child and adult sex slavery and indentured servitude. Pornography is a gateway drug, which commonly escalates to engagement in child pornography and prostitution, as well as cheating in relationships or marriages. While a man may be a good man, he is not the same man anymore because he has become desensitized to normal human stimulus and reasonable decision-making processes as his brain shapeshifts and morphs into the escalating true nature of a major pornography addiction. He has simply become numb, robotic, and antithetical in his actions as the desperate need to feed the growing dopamine addiction outweighs the inherent moral values and righteousness deep inside his heart and soul. It is all too easy to wittingly or unwittingly support the horrifying reality of the sex slave trade which lies right behind the screens of endless novel pornographic imagery. With the simple flick of a finger, a feeble click of a button, from the entitled platform of a powerful nation, and behind the sanitized clinical safety of a computer screen, regular pornography users are inevitably forced to make the horrifying decision of engaging in pornographic material which violates not only their own moral compasses, but also the moral standards and laws of our society. Just as alcoholics, cocaine and morphine addicts inevitably make horrendous decisions and engage in harrowing acts based on addictive behaviors they may regret for the rest of their lives, pornography addicts will make the same terrible and terrifying decisions in their lives due to the ferocity of the major dopamine addiction they are in the throes of. This is exactly why it is so critical that we recognize regular pornography engagement for what it truly is scientifically, a major dopamine addiction on par with alcohol, cocaine, and morphine dopamine addictions. It is absolutely crucial that we stop minimizing and rationalizing pornography engagement as a harmless or neutral sexual behavior. Pornography is an unhealthy sexual behavior, period, which harnesses enough power to create massive dysfunction in our sexual, neurological, energetic, physical, relational, mental, emotional, and spiritual health. If you encourage or minimize pornography, you are contributing to a false narrative without any scientific or experiential data to support your subjective opinion. You are silently complicit in supporting toxic mating behaviors which lead to an objectification of women and a transactional form of toxic sexual mating behavior in relationships and marriages at the very minimum. You are silently complicit in an industry which directly commands and demands the largest slave trade in human history. Pornography addiction commonly escalates to engaging in pornographic material which directly supports indentured sex workers, kidnapped and sold sex slaves, and body organ harvesting. Have you ever bothered to ask why women would choose to have themselves videotaped in pornographic acts? It is rare, if not entirely non-existent, for a young girl or woman to consciously choose a life of pornography as a career. And in those rare cases, this may often be due to sexual abuse trauma and self-depreciating perspectives of their true self-worth. But most women never even had a choice or any say in the matter while they were a susceptible and vulnerable child. The lives of the women who feed the insatiable demands of the pornography industrial complex starts when they are innocent and pure children, simply wanting to live wholesome lives, playing with their friends, and reciprocating love within their families. In one study by Rescue Freedom, 49% of sexually exploited women said they were forced, coerced, or manipulated against their will into pornographic videos while they were being trafficked. The truth is that pornography consumers can never know which pornographic videos involve an actual documented recording of sexual rape, exploitation, trafficking, and abuse in real time. The truth is that every pornography consumer is directly supporting child and adult sex trafficking, indentured servitude, and slavery, because this diabolical and horrifying human sex trade is fueled by demand and money. When the demand and money is withdrawn, the human sex trade will stop. When we stop engaging in pornography, we free these children and adults who are living their worst nightmare. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, which essentially acts as a processing center for child pornography reports, receives an average of 1 million reports per month. Sex trafficking, slavery, and indentured servitude is defined as a human being who is forced, coerced, extorted, or manipulated into performing sexual or intimate acts such as pornography, prostitution, or forced marriage against their will. Sociopathic criminals who used to make illicit money off of illegal drug sales limited to just one single commodity and transaction have realized they can make 100-fold more money off of the same single commodity with thousands of transactions over and over again. Their prized new commodities are girls, boys, women, and men. Human beings, mostly children, are the new drug trade. They do not care about the feelings, families, or lives of these girls and boys, women and men. They are meeting the enormous cravings and demands of the powerful, burgeoning, and lucrative child and adult pornography and prostitution industry. If you think these girls and boys, women and men, are only used for pornography and not for child sex and prostitution, or vice versa, you need to quickly and drastically update your naivety. These sociopathic slave traders who destroy the lives and families of these poor girls and boys, women and men, only care about maximizing the return off of every given commodity they have stolen. They will sell their commodities and services to maximize every possible stream of income, which often begins with child sex pornography and prostitution and continues for years and even decades of enslaved or indentured forced sexual performance. Just as the meat industry uses up every part of the animal during slaughter, modern-day slave traders and traffickers will harvest every usable portion during the most productive and lucrative years of their commodity, sometimes even ending in the tapping of their spinal fluid and the harvesting of their internal organs. They squeeze the essence, the joy, the innocence, the power, and the life out of these poor victims for monetary gain alone. The lives of millions of poor human souls have been shattered with unparalleled and unimaginable trauma, grief, depression, loneliness, and utter disempowerment. The largest slave trade in human history is taking place right now, and most people are not even aware of its terrifying scale and reach. 200 years ago, during the transatlantic slave trade, which cast an indelible, grievous, and evil stain on the very fabric of our nation, slaves were sold for an average of $40,000 in modern-day currency equivalents. Today, the modern slave is sold for only $90. In 2021, 50 million human beings were living in the nightmare of this $150 billion modern slave trade, exploited for purposes such as forced prostitution, labor, criminality, marriage, and even organ removal. Every year, roughly 40 million enslaved souls are forced into labor such as agriculture, fishing, construction, manufacturing, mining, utilities, and domestic work. 10 million enslaved souls are exploited for forced sexual labor every single year. And the numbers are only growing higher each year that we ignore the reality. Half of these poor enslaved souls are children, and 80% are women and girls. In some regions, such as Africa and Mekong, children make up 100% of the sex slave trade. There are 35 million victims of sex trafficking at this very moment, used, abused, and discarded as fuel for the $100 billion sex trafficking industry. This makes the human sex slave trade larger than the global cocaine market and equal to the entire value of the global personal computer industry. During the recent pandemic, online recruitment of sex trafficking and enslavement increased by 22%, with a 120% increase in recruitment through Facebook and a 95% increase through Instagram. America's best kept and dirtiest secret is hidden in the darkened rooms and anesthetized computer screens of its population. There is an enormous elephant standing in the living rooms of America, which most people are unaware of and not talking about. The United States is the top consumer of sex worldwide, the top consumer of paid sex, and the top consumer of child and adult sex slavery. Let me repeat. The United States is the #1 destination point for this massive child and adult sex slave industry, accounting for 52% of global human trafficking. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to catch the next video.